Good evening, you're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, it's the writing that counts, not the typing. Books published despite their author's dyslexia. We visit a gym in Hull to find out how a group of women are taking female bodybuilding by storm. And I'll be talking to Byron Young and Wendy Tyler of the Caxton Players about their role in Robert Louis Stevenson's strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Welcome to Estuary TV News. I'm Hugh Richards. First of all, it's over to Erica Barker for the news headline.
Hello, in the headlines today. Fraud worth up to £430,000 to councils in northern Lincolnshire was uncovered by a review into council tax discounts for single people. From August, it found 855 people committing fraud in North East Lincolnshire. For North Lincolnshire Council, it was 760 when it comes to people wrongly claiming a 25% discount.
Well, basically, as you know, we're getting less and less money from central government to fund these things. We want to make sure that the money we get is targeted to those who most need it. Now, the thing is, we give a discount for single occupancy. We just want to make sure that the people claiming that discount were entitled to it, so we've gone through a review. We found that a lot of it isn't actually being fraudulent use. It's where people have met a partner, they've moved in together, they've not realised. So now we're having to regularise the situation, and of course, those people need to pay back the money that was given to them.
Grimsby Central Hall has been saved from closure as an anonymous benefactor steps in. They will underwrite the hall's losses for the next 3 years, which will allow it to stay open until at least 2018. Well, the hall used for art and entertainment events was going to shut this year if a funding solution couldn't be found. While the future is looking up, Richard Bradley, chairman of the Central Hall Trust, says funds are still needed.
We've got to raise more money because the package that we've put together is going to keep us ticking over as we have been, but it's acknowledged that the hall needs some innovation, it needs work doing to it, areas that need redecorating, projects need to be put in, refurbishment, so that is the sort of money we're now looking for on top of this.
And animal lovers around the country are mourning the death of founding trustee Peggy Dornham, who died aged 91 at her home in Rawby, North Lincolnshire. Miss Dornham gave her life to the cause of abandoned and unwanted dogs for more than 50 years. And local farmers are supporting dairy farmers across the country. Club Hector founder John O'Dixon is one of many showing support by posting a milk tash selfie on social media. It comes as a leading company has delayed paying them for the milk after a crash in prices. Well, that's all from me. If you have any news, give us a ring on 01472 315561. Until next time.
Thank you, Erica. Dyslexia is an issue affecting roughly 10% of the UK population. 4% are severe sufferers of the condition. One such person is Vanna Smith from Grimsby, who's now turned herself into an author. She's just started writing her second and third books. Richard Morris has the story.
There are thousands of authors across the UK, and today a new one is joining the club. Vanna Smith's story is aimed at teenagers and young adults and follows a young teenager struggling to control a strange new gift that she has acquired. The book is a huge step forward for Vanna, who has always felt, until her diagnosis of dyslexia, that something was holding her back.
I felt when I first did start writing at school, even when I'd left school, I prejudged everything I did, and when I wrote it and I'm thinking, that don't look right, there's something wrong there, oh I can't do this, and I'd put it away. And then over the years I thought, I do like writing and I do like reading. I don't read a lot of books, but now since I've developed my my love of reading regarding my own book, I'm picking up books what I wouldn't normally read.
And Vanna is already turning her attention to the next two instalments in the trilogy.
As my confidence grew with the first one, I was having ideas already for the next two, and they won't be long in following this book.
Vanna says that the whole exercise has given her renewed confidence in herself.
I think building up with confidence, it makes you believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to do good work. But if your confidence is better, because you're now actually more confident writing or reading or even spelling, And if you feel that you can continue building this confidence up as you go through the process of writing, set yourself small, easy targets, and that's what I've done. I actually use it as stepping stones. I do not fear dyslexia anymore, I embrace it. It's a part of who I am, and it's a part of my life, and I want other people to know that dyslexia shouldn't stop you doing anything you feel that you can do. Erlen syndrome can make you feel that sometimes it can, the words on the page jump, melt and entwine with each other, and getting that additional support with the overlays and also the coloured glasses are a tremendous help. And even with these obstacles, I still went for it. I went for my goal, and it's achieving my book, and I feel so proud in doing that book now.
Some of the proceeds raised from the book will go to charities.
You're watching Estuary TV News. A little later, we find out the meaning of another local phrase, and Dan Kemp will bring you all the sports news. The strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde has been chilling readers and audiences since its publication in 1886. Robert Louis Stevenson wrote the story in less than a week while delirious from fever, or some say from drugs. The horribly split personalities are coming to Grimsby on the stage here, and Byron Young and Wendy Tyler of the Caxton Players are taking the lead roles. Byron, Wendy, thank you very much for coming in. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I don't think there's any real necessity to explain the plot or who the characters are. It's a fairly well-known story. What's the enduring fascination?
Well, I think the split personality and the fact that this guy's been working on the mind, the potions, the frightening Edward Hyde. Not a very nice character at all, obviously, as we know. On the stage itself, we're not going to try and turn Edward Hyde into a hairy monster. It's all going to be acted out for the audience themselves to see what changes go on, and well, yeah, it all happens in front of everybody.
It's the great there won't be the great metamorphosis scene where he drinks the potion, falls behind the counter in the laboratory, and the hairy hand comes up.
It's not
Absolutely not.
It's not going to be a Hammer House of Horrors sort
No.
of.
No.
But Wendy,
It's proper acting.
It's proper acting. Sure, it will be. Of course, it'll be proper acting. But it will be in costume, though. It will be in period.
Oh yes, it's period, yes, and costumes and changes and different characters, accents, and a lot of atmospheric music going on in the background. So yeah, it's quite dark play, poignant. This, people will relate to it in their own lives with the upsets of marriages, and it's got everything really,
And it's a very psychological, as Byron says, it's a very psychological story. The idea of the split personality, which isn't really schizophrenia, is it? There's some other name for it, but the idea of two people occupying the same person, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, Jekyll's, he's spent years working on the mind, trying to develop this potion to sort of cure madness, really. And he's worked on animals. In the end, they stop him working on animals due to the Cruelty to Animals Act. So therefore, he has to try and work on humans, and the only human he can work on is himself.
There are some quite modern themes, aren't there? The idea of, if you can't practice on animals, then just practice straight on human beings is a sort of issue that faces science now. But also the whole issue of whether, if you can discover something and invent something, do you do it just because you can, or maybe you I mean, these
yes, well, it's ethics. Ethics are involved. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
And even back in 1886, it was it's unethical to work on animals, and therefore he had to stop. So he had to work on somebody else. So he chose to work on himself.
This is not a simple production you're both involved in here, is it? You're all none of you are just playing one character.
No.
When just tell me what roles are you playing? Wendy?
I'm playing Helena, the leading lady, and she is married to Utterson, which is a friend of Henry Jekyll's. But then she's married to Lanyon, isn't she? Hastings Lanyon, and Utterson's a friend. But she ends up having an affair with Henry Jekyll. But really, she prefers Hyde, because he's a bit more of a forceful character, and she finds that quite attractive.
Sex, violence, envy, jealousy, rage, anger.
All of that.
Absolutely wonderful. And Byron, who are you playing?
Well, Jekyll has a lawyer, Gabriel Utterson, so I'm playing Gabriel Utterson, and also Dr. Hastings Lanyon, Jekyll's colleague, who works closely with Dr. Jekyll and is the husband of Eleanor O'Donnell, who's Wendy does a bit of singing. She's the Irish song, but she's not actually in the book. When the playwright brought Eleanor O'Donnell into the play, which really rounds the play up, because it would have been too one-sided with men, and it's a really good plot with the husband and wife situation with Dr. Lanyon and Eleanor, along with Jekyll and the Hyde character, because you know Lanyon is a real sort of soft, nice, theatrical sort of character, and Eleanor does the dirty on him, and it goes off with Hyde, unfortunately.
And what are the mechanics of this sort of production? Because I mean, is that just a matter of, especially for all the characters you're playing, Wendy, is that a matter of quick changes off stage and
very
things like
quick
that?
changes to come off in as a Helena and then come back on as, say, for instance, as a prostitute in it, and there's a maid that comes on and she's quite a funny little. All the characters have got to be different so that the audience can see that it's a change of character, different accents. And we've all got to do different accents, haven't we? So
Yes, and we all. A big thing about it for us, you know, I've been acting for about a year now. Wendy's a bit longer. Is the props, because we rearrange everything. We're on stagecoaches, you know, just by moving chairs around and props around and changing clothes, scenery, you know, blankets here and there. The stage just changes. With us.
Before your very eyes.
While we're talking to the audience. No blackouts. We'll just do it all in front.
I was going to say how very theatrical. That seems rather obvious. Yeah. You mentioned that you've introduced new characters from Robert Louis Stevenson's original story. I'll bristle slightly at the suggestion that Robert Louis Stevenson didn't write it properly first time round. But who has adapted it? Whose version of the play?
It's a guy called Nick Lane. Yeah, he adapted it, and I think he wrote it. He wrote the adaptation quite quickly as well. And yeah, I mean, I don't know why he put the love interest in it, but it certainly makes a much better play to watch than whether it was in the film or not. I've not seen the film version, so perhaps there's a love interest in the film.
Well, I was going to ask, there are so many film versions,
yes, there
aren't
is.
there?
Yeah, I've seen a few. Yeah, I downloaded one of the old films straight away when I got the part.
The black and white ones are the best, I would say.
Brilliant,
but,
absolutely.
But nothing's ever going to beat live stage performance. Just do tell me, where and when can people come and see this production?
31st of January. Saturday, and then the Sunday, there's no production on the Sunday, but then from the Monday the 2nd of February to Saturday the 2nd of February, so 7 days, not including the Sunday the 1st of February.
And that's Caxton Theatre in Grimsby?
Yes.
And ticket prices?
It's £8 on the Saturdays, the 2 Saturdays, £7.50 within the week, and then, but there are concessions as well, obviously.
Both of you, thank you very much for coming in. All the best with that production.
Thank you very much, thank you.
A group of women in Hull are proving that bodybuilding isn't just for men, taking it from underground onto the public stage. They're competing to be crowned champions. Our reporter Erica Barker has been to the workout gym in Hull to find out more about this female-only team.
When it comes to New Year's resolutions, getting in shape may top the list, but here they are taking it a step further. Muscle Hunters launched in October sees a group of young women standing together. Bodybuilding isn't normally associated with ladies, but Mr. Universe and founder of the group, Dan Welvan, thinks girls can benefit greatly from weight training.
It's been pushed underground for such a long time for women to lift weights that they're just they're misfed a lot of information, thinking that if they lift weights they're going to get bulky or they're going to get real big, and the only way to get in shape and get toned is on a cardio machine, which really, in fact, the majority of the time people who just do cardio, if they've already got body fat, they'll end up what we call skinny fat. So they won't look much different, they'll just be smaller because they'll have lost all the muscle mass. So what we try and do is build out a little bit of muscle on the girls. They're not going to explode into a giant bodybuilder because they've not got the testosterone or hormones in their bodies to do that. So if they just generally lift weights the same way guys do, they'll end up looking something like this lady on the wall behind us.
Like every other woman, I've been into just cardio all my life, just doing loads of cardio, and as soon as I started doing weights, it's hard to begin off with, but week by week you get stronger and you get better at it.
It just becomes your way of living. I work full time, I have 2 children, and there's no need to make excuses not to keep fit and healthy. There's always a way. If you want to do something, it's always possible. At first you do think, I can't lift the weights because it might be too heavy, but you just begin to start training and get stronger, and you just end up loving it.
I was too frightened to go into the weight section at my gym, and I was really nervous about it. I found it quite intimidating, and I sort of looked Dan up and went into the Muscle Hunters group, and it's given me so much confidence to go into it and do it, and I feel comfortable in the area now.
Now Dan is running a Mr. and Mrs. Hull event in the city to improve people's perception and raise the profile of bodybuilding. Taking place in May, the girls are hard at work to be in prime contention. Erica Barker, Estuary TV.
Now for our regular feature, What You Say, more obscure local dialect.
Flagging. Flagging.
Lagging behind, getting a bit slow.
Flagging? No, I've had enough. You know, I'm tired.
We're doing a marathon and at the end you're flagging. At the end you've just not got the pace left.
Flagging, I say getting tired.
Getting tired.
They've had enough, they're tiring out.
Flagging means you're getting a bit tired. You're tiring out. You're getting end of the day. Like I'm flagging a bit now. Yeah.
That means you're getting tired. You know, just had enough.
Exhausted.
Flagging. Getting a bit tired. Getting a bit like a bit flagging. You know, slowing down, losing your energy or something.
Tired, sort of flagging behind. So you're tired of doing your work or something.
Tired.
When
That's
tired,
what I am at the moment.
I'm joined by James Dunn to round up this week's activity in local council chambers. James, local democracy in action. What's been happening? What will be happening?
As you know, Hugh, we look at the North Bank, so that's Hull and East Riding councils, and the South Bank, that's North and North East Lincolnshire councils. Probably the big one over the next week would be in Hull, and that's the full council meeting at the Guildhall on Friday at 10 a.m. So that's when all the great and the good of the various wards in Hull will meet, and they're talking about a number of issues actually. One of the big ones that's going to come up is the Lord Line building on St Andrew's Dock.
Right.
Anyone from Hull will know that's this huge building rapidly falling into disrepair.
It's getting a bit derelict, isn't
Indeed.
it? Yeah.
The council have issued repair notices to the owner, that's Manor Properties, and even gone as far as to say that they're going to do the work themselves and charge the company £50,000 to do it. But what's recently happened and what they're going to be discussing is a petition from members of the public who want them to turn it into a museum to celebrate the fishing heritage, the people that worked and died in the fishing industry throughout the years in Hull.
Hull doesn't, unlike other towns around the estuary of the Humber, Hull doesn't have anything any museum of that sort never has had, has it?
No, which is kind of a surprise when you look at the history of Hull, and maybe with City of Culture it seems like a better idea than ever coming up in 2017.
And either way, it's the council's business because it's going to cost the council money.
It looks that way, yes. The other things that they'll be talking about, the closure of two motor projects in the town. So they've said that they were going to close the Two Wheel Centre and the Bransholme Urban Motor projects. That's to save themselves £250,000. They were hoping to offload that to external companies. That's fallen through, so now it looks like they'll simply close. And that's prompted a petition from various people who obviously think that they're valuable resources, and young people need to be able to have that option for themselves.
Hull Council under budget pressures like every other council in the land.
Indeed, and the other thing they'll be doing is there's going to be a 10-minute statement from the leader who will be setting out his aims and objectives, and no doubt the budget will come out during that as well. The next big thing I'd probably like to talk about would be in North East Lincolnshire Council. Something that's always controversial is speed limits.
Of course.
Now, there's going to be 3 speed limit petitions discussed. These are going to be at, if you'll excuse me just for a moment, these are going to be about reducing the speed limits on Taylors Avenue. That's one of the busiest roads in Cleethorpes, from 40 to 30. Another one is going to be Station Road in Healing, where they're talking about reducing the limit from 30 to 20. That's near the nursery school. And finally, there's another petition from people in the Granville Street area of Grimsby. Now, people who live in those areas won't be glad to know, but perhaps motorists might be glad to know the council's actually recommended refusing all of those petitions. So we'll see what happens there, but that's going to be discussed on the 20th of January at 9:30 a.m.
Speed limits in North East Lincolnshire are a recently controversial issue, of course,
well,
because
we all know about Peaks Parkway.
We all know about Peaks
but,
Parkway.
I mean, this is a separate issue, 3 in fact, and we'll just have to see what happens with those ones. Really, they are the big 2 that I wanted to discuss. Now, There are other meetings, for example, in the East Riding. There is lots going on next week. Monday and Tuesday there are meetings of the Eastern Area and the Western Area subcommittees. That's planning committees, so they're going to be discussing which applications have been received by the council, and if you do live in any of those areas, or that is the whole of the East Riding, the West and the East, then it might be worth going down or at least looking at the council's website where it'll tell you what's being discussed.
And they're meeting in Beverley, I take it?
Yes, they are, yes.
Okay. What's anything happening in?
Well, I'm just going to go to North Lincolnshire. Really, actually, today we've already missed the most important meeting, which was at 2 o'clock today, and that was the planning committee meeting, like I was discussing in East Riding.
That's right.
There are 3 other meetings in licensing, so anything from Dinky Donuts to Hackney
all those
Carriages.
issues coming up as well.
Indeed.
James, many thanks. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Here's the sport with Dan Kemp.
We'll start with some football results from yesterday evening. Scunthorpe United couldn't make it to the 4th round of the FA Cup after going down in extra time at Chesterfield. The game was tied 0-0 going into the additional 30 minutes, but Sam Clucas netted twice for the Spirates. Meanwhile, North Ferriby United were back in Conference North action, drawing 1 apiece with Brackley Town. Tom Denton netted on 14 minutes, but failed to make their chances pay, and the Villagers were pegged back through Will Green with 8 minutes to go. They sit 9th in the division. In Rugby Union and some results from the weekend, in National League 2 North, Hull Ionians maintained their tight grip on the top of the division, beating Broad Street 26-10 at Brantian Park, having gone in at 5 apiece at half-time thanks to a try from Ben Smith. Eyes came out strongly in the second half with this try from Danny Haig and 2 from Alex Torkington. Meet elsewhere in the division, Hull IUFC remained second bottom after losing 28-10 in Harrogate. And in National League 3 Midlands, Scunthorpe beat Lichfield 38-15 in Ruiti Vimoso's final game for the club. And back to football, and Hull City's under-18s crashed out of the FA Youth Cup at the 3rd round stage. In the first game of 2015, the Young Tigers lost 3-0 at Old Trafford in front of a crowd of 4,087, which included Louis van Gaal. The Reds scored 3 second-half goals in 9 minutes from Zach Durnley and Callum Gribbin, who scored twice. And finally, Humber Premier League outfit Hull United have taken on Curtis Woodhouse as manager and Ian Ashby as a new player coach. And that's all for the sport.
That's all we have time for, I'm afraid. If you have a story for us, please go to our Facebook or Twitter pages, details in the corner of the screen, or email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 315561. But until tomorrow, good evening.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. There's sunny intervals and scattered showers on Thursday, wintry on the hills and more general rain with hill snow in the west by evening. It's feeling cold with maximum temperatures of 7 degrees. And sunny spells with wintry showers on Friday.